You are watching Co-op for Two. I'm Jesse, and we are continuing our playthrough of Legacy of Dragonholt. It's the fourth day in the village. We're actually in the middle of day 4 in the afternoon. And in the last episode, we had this quest in the Crypt of Carthun, where we battled wolves and spiders and recovered this, the Frost Rune. And now we've returned to the village of Dragonholt, and we left off being instructed to read 7752. So let's continue from there. I think we actually read this. Yes, we read this. So we got back from our quest. We recovered a skill that got disabled. We got 2 progress in combat, which completed our combat training. This says we can mark and use an experience to, at any time, to bump up one of our skills of brawling. Is brawling or military are the only ones we don't have. So if we ever find ourselves needing brawling or military, we could do that. And that pushed time across. Okay, so we're back in the village. We have low stamina, so I'm trying to think. We could eat one of our healing potions. We only have 3. If we didn't think we were going to go somewhere to get our stamina up automatically. Normally in this game we found that there are some places you go where your stamina goes up automatically. I guess we're going to drink one. Well, let's wait till we go into another quest. But I think we are going to go into another quest because we're feeling the pressure to do this. So we could go Eastern Road, which is down here off screen. We could go on the Eastern Road. We went on the Northern Road. That's just what got us to the crypt. Or we could go down to Willow Grove, where we haven't been yet. So let's try Willow Grove. Let's see what's down here in Willow Grove, because maybe I can't remember if it's a quest or something else. So 1790. Let's get back to our tracking. 1790. I'm still a little bitter taste in my mouth from the Philip, the son, getting killed and missing out on an entire quest because we were slow to get out of bed and hit the road. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Some kid gets kidnapped. Like, time is of the essence, and we weren't really in a rush to save him, and we got him killed. Okay, the road leading south out of the village splits around a large grove of willow and oak trees. The villagers seem to treat the grove as a sort of park or meeting spot. There are almost always children playing among the trees or families enjoying the sun and the breeze. If it's day 2, if it's day 5, if it's day 6, well, it's not, it's day 4, so otherwise read entry 1370. Okay. So something's happening on day 5, 6, and 70. 5, 6, and 7. But for us, we go to 1370. The road, if a wagon track that is simply 2 ruts running through the grass can be called that, runs south out of Dragonholt and marches past the mill, visible in the distance as a leaning stone tower. Beyond the mill, hills pile atop one another, purpling with distance as they reach toward the sky. Oh, we can head to the mine. Okay, this is the mine quest. It requires B1 be checked. So B1 is checked, so we do know about it. This encounter is complete. Read entry 1009 in the Sliver of Silver quest book. That's it. We're on the quest. No option. so Sliver of Silver. So we're just doing all our quests now. All right, here's Sliver of Silver. It's the goblins in the mine. So 1009 Sliver Silver quest. Okay, let's get out our Sliver of Silver. Sliver of Silver. Let's remember, we do still have this. I was gonna say we don't have the Swiftness potion, but we do. It's still day 4, so we still have it. The remainder of the current day. It was a weird. It was a weird mechanic there where we went on this quest and came back in the middle of a day. If I had known that was how it was going to work, that the quests weren't going to eat up normal time, I would have gone and saved Philip. Okay, so we still have this we still have I guess we should write down somehow that we currently have. Okay, so I'm going to write down here on this book, on this thing here, that for day 4, we have agility and thievery. So we don't forget on our stuff. All right, so 1009. It's reminding us here that the tracking sheets for the back of the book are here. The tracking sheet for this quest has 8 time and no special progress markers like the other one. Let's read. You trek south away from the Willow Grove and Dragonholt. After an hour hike, you make your way down into a rocky fissure that branches away from the main road. The path soon leads over a stone bridge that crosses an underground river. A few buildings stand before the mine's entrance in various states of disrepair. The mine's main entrance is blocked by a makeshift set of double doors barred from the inside by a heavy wooden beam. You recall the map Fiore showed you and follow the river's edge to a thicket of brambles. Sliding between the rock face of the ravine and the hazardous thorns, you come across the concealed tunnel you were told about, a narrow and dark passage that falls deep into the stone. Steeling yourself for the journey, you light a lantern and carefully climb down into the darkness. Notice there was no way to change our like. Once we walked on this road, we're in this quest, and there's no backing out of it. The passage twists along through walls, speaking clearly of its emergency nature, and you pick your way along gingerly, careful to keep your light low. Finally, you come to the point where the passage joins a main hallway, though the opening between the two passages is no more than a gap in the rock beside a wooden support beam. You are about to squeeze through when you hear approaching footsteps and the voices of 2 goblins idly jabbering with one another as they patrol. So we can ambush the patrolling goblins, or we can hide until the patrol has passed by. Well, I have stealth and awareness, and there's 2 of them. I think I'd rather hide and see if we can hear something interesting and see which way they're going. So let's hide until the patrol has passed by. 5317. If you'll remember, the map we saw said there was like a backup way to flood it and a backup way to explode it. I got the impression that you could either do one of those, but maybe you have to do both. I'm not I can't remember it yet. 5317. I hope this isn't a mistake. You draw back into the shadows of the passageway. The goblins pause in front of the opening to jabber at one another for a moment. You shield the light of your lantern from view, but accidentally touch it to the passage wall, creating the faintest dull clank that echoes softly down the narrow tunnel. If you have reasoning or stealth, we have stealth, so 9780. Well, we figured that stealth was going to be useful here. You carefully pull back and hold your breath. Silence follows, and the goblins don't seem to have noticed the sound. After a long moment, the goblins continue on their way, jabbering to one another as they go. You wait patiently until they are long gone before you take a breath and slip from the side passage. Read 1751. Okay, before we do that, we're going to take one of our healing potions. We now have only 2. Maybe we should have walked around the village and gotten our stamina back up first, because I don't feel like we have that many stamina. Okay, and now we're at 13, almost at full strength. Okay, 9780 told us to read 1751. You follow the main passage along the route you recall from the map until you come to a large rectangular room. On the left is a vast stone trough. A pipe nearly an arm's length across emerges upward from the stone floor to deposit water in the trough, but no water is flowing now. A water wheel connects to a collection of gears that powers a smaller water screw, presumably the one meant to pump the water up to the river above. Along the back wall is an iron walkway elevated above the ground. Under the walkway, a large furnace is set into the wall, cold and dark. Above, along the walkway, are a series of levers and wheels. So we can heat the furnace and get the pipeworks running again, which requires craftsmanship, which we have, or we could ignore it or try to blindly attempt to activate it. All right, we have craftsmanship. That's great. So let's heat the furnace and get the pipeworks running again. 1934. So our skills are coming in handy. You have to shovel and begin loading coal from a nearby pile into the furnace. You find tinder in a small alcove beside the furnace, and soon the furnace is aglow with heat. With the furnace running, you take stock of the controls and mechanisms, testing a few to see how they function. You determine that the pipes are still in workable condition. Spinning a wheel, you hear the screech of long, still metal sliding against metal as the larger water screw begins to turn slowly. You release one lever and the screeching stops, and the screw builds up speed. Before long, a constant stream of water pours from the water screw to fill the trough. You pull another lever, and the smaller water screw begins to pull water from the trough and out of the mine. After making a few more minor adjustments to the speeds of the 2 screws, the water level in the stone trough is constant, and you believe you successfully activated the pipeworks. It says mark story point H6. Oh, yeah, okay. Time passes. Read entry 6897. So the reason I'm pausing here is because there's 2 things. We want to come into this mine. We want to get rid of the goblins. And then the person told us that it was important that we not destroy the mine so that they could still use it. So that's what we want to do. We want to take over the mine, but keep it. Now, when it was telling us about the waterworks, I was thinking, oh, we have to sabotage it so that we could kill them all with water or whatever by flooding it. But it seems like the game wanted us to fix it, to get it running. So I guess we're not going to drown them all. I thought we were going to sabotage it, but instead we've got it running. 6897. You leave the pipeworks behind and descend a set of stairs into another tunnel. Just then you hear an odd scraping sound. Carefully you edge forward and look around a corner. A side passage opens up into a natural cavern, which is studded with small fungal growth that glows with a faint purple luminescence. To one side of the cavern, a lone goblin is leaning over, looking at something on the ground and making small snorty giggles. Whatever it's doing, it doesn't seem to have noticed you. We can draw your weapon and attack, sneak up behind the goblin and subdue it quietly, or ignore the goblin and sneak past. I think we're going stealthy this whole thing. So let's sneak up behind the goblin and subdue it quietly if we can. 2482. On silent feet, you slink into the cavern like a shadow. You are only just out of reach when the creature suddenly stands and jabbers something to itself under its breath. The goblin reaches for the dagger at its belt. If you have brawling or stealth, we have stealth. 8696. 8696. Stealth is coming in handy. With a practiced motion, you grab the goblin lightning fast, wrapping it in a powerful chokehold. The goblin is so shocked it barely remembers to struggle, and before long it goes limp in your arms. You lay the creature to rest on the stone floor. Read entry 1014. All right, that worked as well as we could have hoped. You examine what the goblin had been looking at. A patch of odd mushrooms, identical to the ones high up on the ceiling and walls of the cavern. The mushrooms in this patch are larger than the others. You pluck the largest one to keep as a sample. You gain one strange mushroom, item S. Okay, let's look at what this is. Strange mushroom. The mushroom glows from beneath its cap and produces a terribly pungent scent. Could it be poisonous? Instead of choosing a location in the village, you can eat this strange mushroom by reading entry 7549 so we can eat it when we're in the village, which we're not. Okay, kind of crazy that we would just eat that. Read entry 6208. So we got S, and then we go to 6208. Leaving the cavern behind, you follow the main corridor further underground. After some time, you come across a thick iron door set into the side of the passageway, what you remember being marked as the blastworks. We can take a look inside, or we can pass by. The problem is we don't have the skills that I think we need to blast it, but I don't even know if we're supposed to now. All right, let's take a look inside. 7053. We're going to just walk by like the fireworks. No, we're going to take a look. 7053. This is a little scary. Something's going to happen, I think. 7053. Remembering Fiona's caution regarding the blastworks, you are careful to place your lantern just outside the doorway as you step inside. I didn't want to step inside, I just wanted to look. The room is square and no more than 4 paces across, with walls, floor, and ceiling lined with rough riveted iron. Nearly everything in the room is metal as well. Mixing stations for powders, supply shelves, crates for explosives, excepting only giant glass jars of raw materials marked with paper labels, long faded. The lighting comes from hanging glass flasks full of luminescent purple mushrooms, though time has dulled their light to a soft amethyst glow, making the room worryingly dim. Create your own explosives from the components if we have alchemy, which we do not. Or grab some explosives from the crates. you know this is not going to be good. But let's grab them because I don't know if we need them. 1, 4, 8, 4. Hopefully we'll just get some burns or something. You search the crates, pushing aside piles of straw in search of some usable explosives. It seems the crates have been ransacked already, and at first all you find are broken casings, discarded fuses, and a thin layer of blasting powder at the bottom of the crate. If you have awareness or reasoning, now we do have awareness. That's one of our base skills, is awareness. Right there, awareness. So we can do that. We have awareness. Let's see, where are we? 1484. We have awareness, so 1195. You continue searching and find nearly a dozen explosives still intact in one of the crates. However, upon further inspection, you notice the straw padding and the paper of the shells is molding. The blasting powder in these would be too damp to be of any use, no doubt why they were left to rot. You carefully check over the other crates until at last you find a single stick that was missed when the room was ransacked. You ensure that the wrapping is dry and shows no previous water damage and the fuse is sturdy. Mark story point M7. Read entry 4037. You cautiously open the door to the main corridor and look down in confusion, realizing your lantern is missing. Standing in front of you is a goblin holding the lantern and examining it curiously. The creature looks up to see you standing in the doorway, and for a moment neither of you move. Then it shrieks and drops the lantern to the ground where the glass shatters. Before you're completely aware of what has just happened, the goblin is sprinting down the tunnel ahead of you with surprising speed. The lantern oil on the floor catches, and the fire soon spreads over the tunnel floor. Oh my god. So we can leap the flames and chase the goblin, put out the fire before giving chase, or squelch the hazard with runic frost, which requires the frost rune, which we have and got in our last quest. So for sure, that's what we're going to do. But I want to chase that goblin before he alerts everyone. But I think that's what we got to do. We have that frost, runic frost. That's perfect for us. 3302. I mean, that's our new thing. Surely we're going to use that. Simply grasping the frost rune through the sheepskin chills the air in the tunnel. With a wave of your other hand, the flames gutter and extinguish instantly. As you stoop to retrieve the fallen lantern, you hear a shriek from up ahead. You look up to see that the fleeing goblin has slipped on a fresh patch of ice and is now struggling to its feet once more. You stow the frost rune and give chase. So the frost rune made him trip. That's great. 4447. So we got a chance to catch him before he alerts anyone. You keep running, following the goblin to what appears to be a way station for mining carts, nearly empty except for a pair of carts sitting on a downward sloping track. Without slowing down, the goblin jumps into the front cart and releases the brake lever. The cart quickly picks up speed as it glides along the tracks, and its goblin rider lets out a self-satisfied cackle. You leap into the other cart, lift the brake, and are soon speeding down after the creature. The cars careen through the dimly lit mine tunnels, increasing in speed as the tracks take you deeper underground. The goblin takes notice of your rolling pursuit. You're gaining on it. The creature hefts a sizable rock from its cart and holds it overhead, ready to toss in your direction. We can anticipate the goblin's throw and dodge. We can try to catch it or blast it with our runes. I mean, if we blast it, we could hurt him. But every time we use that rune skill, we seem to hurt ourselves. We could try to dodge it. I mean, we do have agility, awareness. We do have agility due to our swiftness potion. So, that's tricky. Let's use our runic blast and try to destroy it from his hands, and maybe we can hurt him in the process. 7590. As the goblin raises the rock, you slip your blasting rune from a hidden pocket. Just as the creature is about to hurl the object, you channel the magic of the shard into a column of force that catches the stone from between the goblin's hands and sends it hurtling through the darkness of the tunnel ahead. The goblin stands in its cart for a moment, dazed and confused, gripping the empty air above its head where once there was a rock nearly as large as its chest. Read 2472. Okay, so far so good. The passage opens into a much larger natural cavern, eroded by an underground river over the centuries. The chamber is several paces across and extends to the right far into the darkness. The track ahead crosses a bridge over a narrow channel of water before coming to an abrupt end at a buffer stop. As soon as the goblin's cart clears the bridge, the creature leaps out and tucks into a nimble roll before bouncing back to its feet and turning to face you. The abandoned cart crashes into the buffer stop with a cacophonous ringing of iron. Your cart crosses the bridge and is only a moment from colliding with the car ahead and coming to a dead halt. We can throw the brake lever. There's actually lots of interesting choices here. Throw the brake lever, leap from the minecraft to safety, use the cart's momentum to launch a flying assault, tumble from the cart and fire at the goblin with our archery, throw the cart at the goblin with your tremendous strength, if we have athletics and endurance, or launch the minecraft at the goblin with runic magic. Requires arcana and runes, which we don't have. I think we're gonna do our archery because we've got agility, awareness. We don't have athletics though. We don't have athletics. I feel like it's gonna need athletics. I feel like it's gonna need athletics. But so would leaping from the minecraft to safety. All right, I'm going to try the archery, but I have a bad feeling that without athletics, we're in trouble. Tumble from the cart and fire at the goblin. It's going to need athletics. But what if it needs athletics or agility? All right, let's do it. 4224. It's a weird, like, game mechanic where sometimes it tells you ahead of time you need this skill to try this, and other times it tells you only after you choose it whether it asks you, well, do you have this? If not, you didn't do so well. So we're going to try 4224, and we're afraid it's going to ask for athletics. No? Okay. You dive over the side of the cart and tuck into a tight roll. Your impact with the ground is harder than you expected, but it doesn't stop you from knocking an arrow and firing in the goblin's direction. The shaft catches the creature in the chest and pins it to one of the heavy wooden support beams. That's awesome. You pull yourself up to your full height and stretch your aching muscles, and brush dust from your shoulder. You lose 1 stamina. Well, that's not so bad. 1 stamina. Down to 12 now. Read entry 6223. Sorry, 6323. Having dealt with the fleeing goblin, you take a better look at your surroundings. This larger tunnel was clearly carved by the underground river, but the back wall has been braced with sturdy wooden beams, and multiple mine shafts have been dug through the stone. To the left, the tunnel is blocked off by a dam made of tarred wood and fortified with iron bands. Water from beyond the dam spills into a channel that passes under the bridge you rode over in the minecart. To the right, the natural passage continues on until you can no longer see its walls through the darkness. Braced against one of the support beams, some 10 paces away, stands a rickety wooden shack that must have once served as a foreman's office. If story point H6 is marked, H6 is marked. Do we mark it during this playthrough? Well, we don't have a choice. If it's marked, we read this. So let's see if we can get this scene again. We're in a large tunnel carved by the river. The back wall is all braced up, and multiple mine shafts have been dug through the stone. The left, there's a dam blocking the tunnel. Water from behind the dam spills into a channel that passes under the bridge you rode over. To the right, the passage continues, and then there's a rickety shack that must have once served as the foreman's office of the mine. Okay, so H6 is marked, so we're going to 6522. The dam bows in the middle from years of water pressure. There are gaps along the top of the dam that you take to the emergency overflow relief. The structure below the gaps is worn as if water flowed through for many years, but no water pours forth now. You can see a large pipe nearly as wide as your arm is long that extends up from the water beyond the dam and up through the stone ceiling. The piping shakes slightly, and you can hear the distant grinding of the Dunmore water screw pulling water up through the mine. Thanks to your efforts at the pipeworks, you can see that you've relieved an immense pressure from the dam. Okay, so we relieved pressure from the dam. Again, it's a little confusing to me. I thought we were going to sabotage this place. Okay, then it says read entry 1511. Suddenly you realize that two goblins have been standing a few paces away from you for some time. One of them holds a spear and gawks at its incapacitated comrade. The other carries a bow and stares wide-eyed in your direction. Okay, this looks like a real battle. Now we're in trouble. The goblin archer clutches at the arrows in the makeshift quiver at its belt. The spear-wielding goblin turns its gaze toward you and rushes at you, shouting. We can brace ourselves to receive the charge, dodge the spear strike and counterattack, fire at the goblin archer with your own bow, or pepper the archer with thrown knives if we have thievery, which we do. I'm not going to try to fire my arrows because I'm afraid that this guy with the spear is going to get us. Dodge the spear strike and counterattack, but then the arrow guy is going to get us. Fire at the goblin archer with your own bow. Pepper the archer with thrown knives. I mean, that's the one I'm going to do, but I'm sticking with our general strategy. If we have a skill, we're going to use it. We've got 2 skills here, archery or thievery, but we've got thievery only for today, so I say we use it when we got the chance. So we're going to throw some knives at the archer. It's not at the other guy. I thought we would be shooting at the other guy, but okay, 8, 5, 9, 4. You roll away from the spear-wielding goblin, drawing a few throwing knives as you do. The archer looses an arrow in your direction just as you launch your attack. 3 daggers strike the archer in the chest, shoulder, and throat. The goblin clutches at the blades and falls backwards. If you have agility, which we do because of our swiftness potion, read 7380. Hopefully that will let us dodge the other guy's attack. Yeah, okay, 7380. The spear-wielding goblin is bearing down on you at a run. Its spear point is trained at your chest, and the goblin screams surprisingly loud for a creature its size. We can dodge the spear and counterattack. We can disarm the goblin and subdue it, or command the goblin's spear to backlash if we have the runes. Well, we have not been doing this all peacefully. I was going to say let's subdue it, but we put an arrow through one guy's chest to the wall, and we just threw knives into this other guy's throat. So there's no strong reason to try to subdue instead of counterattack. Command the goblin spear to backlash with runes again. I mean, if we're sticking with our strategy of using skills when we have it. All right, let's stick with it. Let's command the goblin spear to backlash. 1821. Until this strategy backfires, I'm going to follow it, even though I don't love this as my first choice. You clutch your growth rune tightly, allowing its powers to flow through you. Your attention focuses on the wooden haft of the spear the goblin is holding, and into it you pour the wild energy of the runes, shaping the magic into vicious thorns that suddenly erupt from the length of the weapon. The goblin's fierce growl suddenly turns into a shriek of pain, and it drops the spear in shock. Before it can react, you've drawn your lightning rune. You grasp the creature by the neck, and a surge of electricity causes every muscle in its body to tense. When you release it, the goblin falls to the ground, unable to move beyond spastic twitching. So we tased it. You shake out your arm, still numb from using the lightning rune. You lose 1 stamina. The runes are interesting. They seem to cause your stamina to go down. Often, when we use it, we get a little bit injured. So that's a good note. Okay, so we lost the stamina, and we read 1420. I feel like we've gotten away from this stuff pretty with just some scratches. Uh-oh. Just as you think you might have found some peace, you hear a sound like oncoming thunder. After some time, the noise resolves into the sound of countless goblin feet flooding into the cavern. In moments, the chamber is filled with goblins flowing out of the tunnels and packing shoulder to shoulder in a ring surrounding you. The goblins jeer and brandish weapons and torches. Though the air is filled with malice, none of them attack. The door of the foreman's office creaks open, and the goblin horde falls silent. In the doorway stands the single largest goblin you've ever seen. Easily half again the height of any other goblin, and as wide as he is tall, rolls of fat cascading from his chin. Unlike the other goblins, who wear no more than worn leathers, This one is outfitted with a bewildering array of armor, all too big or too small for him. A fine breastplate, too big or too small for people he's killed. His breastplate has been deconstructed into sections and lashed awkwardly across his chest. What were once fine velvet trousers are being held up by hard-working combination of a sturdy leather belt and suspenders, and a huge winged helmet sits atop his head, underneath which peek small pig-like orange eyes. The vast goblin surveys the room with a superior glare, and idly fingers an iridescent stone fragment on a cord around his neck. So he has runic magic. Okay. He steps out of the office in a manner that seems a passable attempt at looking regal, shutting the door behind him with a slap that shakes the whole of the structure. He then immediately ruins the grandeur of his exit by taking a final disgusting chomp of the rat on a stick he holds in his left hand and tossing the remains dismissively to the side, eliciting a yelp from the unfortunate underling it hits. I am the great Splig, king of all the goblins, he bellows, throwing his arms wide, spraying bits of half-chewed rat from his maw. Okay. So I can say, who? Or I can say, you must leave this place. Or I can say, O great Splig, I come bearing a warning, which requires deception or performance, which we do not have. I was hoping it would have persuasion, but it's not. So we can't try to trick him. We could say, who are you? Or we could say, you must leave this place. I don't think he's going to respond to either of those. We do have combat training, so we could give ourselves brawling or military, which I think we may have to for this battle. Unfortunately, we don't have enough to get anything else. So let's be coy and say, who are you? Tell us more about your majesty. 6061. I mean, commanding this guy to leave is not going to work, obviously, so... The rotund goblin's eyes widen. Several goblins gasp in shock. One snickers but is quickly silenced by the heavy fist of the so-called Goblin King. The massive creature approaches you and his minions part to allow him through. Suddenly the fat goblin begins to laugh. What rock have you been living under that you haven't heard of Splig, the king of all goblins? I am known across all the lands as... Then we can say, I don't care about all that. You need to leave. Or we can draw our weapons and prepare for battle. Well, we're going to have to fight this guy. There's no doubt in my mind. So rather than threaten him and have him strike first, I think we draw our weapon and prepare for battle. Okay, I'm a little nervous about this battle. We have 11 stamina and 2 healing potions left. All right. 307, 507, 4. Here we go. You draw your weapon and fall into a combat stance. Splig smirks and snorts a laugh. Ha! You think you're a match for me, Splig, king of all goblins? He shouts something to his goblin minions and holds up his hands to the shrill cheers of his cohorts. He holds out a meaty hand, and the crowd parts for 3 goblins carrying a massive oaken club. Splig takes it from them with satisfaction, patting its gnarled surface as they scurry away. Splig bellows a deep, joyous laugh, and the goblins all around you cackle with glee. The rotund goblin roars and sweeps his club through the air overhead, and his minions unleash a series of cheers in return, causing you to reflexively tense for flight. Splig cracks his neck and grins. I'll show you. He hefts his club, pointing at you. Just what happens to those who cross Splig, the king of all goblins. So we can goad him into attacking. We can charge at the giant goblin with everything you have. We can channel runic lightning into your enemy. Or we can toss the explosive at Splig's feet and take cover, which requires M7 or X8. We do have M7. That's when we've got the dynamite. I mean, well, we've got the dynamite, right? So it's tempting to use it. And yet, I don't know if that's going to ruin the ending where we recover the whole mine. Or are we going to destroy the mine in the process? And these goblins work with these explosives and stuff. Are they just going to pick it up and throw it at us? I'm not ready to use this. Like, I'm not using it as a person. That just doesn't seem like a good weapon. Channel Runic Lightning worked on the other guy, and just shocked him, but it's probably not going to shock this guy that much. I'm going to... This goes against what I said about always using a skill when you can. I just don't think... I think he's a big goblin, and maybe we use a little jujitsu on him. This goes against everything I'm saying, but I'm going to goad him into attacking 6175. I hope I don't regret this. You taunt the so-called king of all goblins, causing his rage to return in full. The creature charges you, each footfall thundering off the cavern walls. In a moment he's upon you, his massive club careening down at you. If you have agility, which we have, dueling, or reasoning, we have both of those, go to 1583. You see your next move laid out in front of you. You suddenly leap forward to meet the charging goblin, sidestepping him and grabbing a hold of his club. Splig grunts in surprise and clutches tighter to his weapon, holding on beautifully as you swing him around, using his own momentum against him. As you pull the great goblin around you in a full circle, Splig going from confused to desperately hanging onto his club, you release the weapon and plant a solid kick to the center of his chest with all of your might. With a scream of bewilderment, Splig staggers backward and slams hard into a support beam, causing the entire cavern to shudder with the impact. Read 3857. Doesn't sound like we did much damage to him. You and Splig take a moment to reassess the situation. Smaller goblins gather around you, but you notice that some are sneaking away up the tunnel to the mine's entrance. Splig doesn't seem to have noticed that his minions are abandoning him. He's too busy watching you and waiting for you to make the next move. Okay, so we can press the Goblin King back with a ferocious charge. We can try to trick Splig into hurting himself. We can don't let the Goblin get any closer with archery or perform a direct assault with runic fire. We don't have deceit, so I don't want to try to trick him. I'm afraid that won't work. But he's got all that armor. All right, let's try our archery. I have my doubt with all that armor. 8418. You knock an arrow and fire. The giant goblin blocks the shaft with his great club and admires the new addition to his stolen accoutrement. A volley of several more arrows follow, shattering against the stone floor at Spig's feet or striking the ground, the rotund oaf. If you have devotion or story point A1, A1 is marked. I don't remember what it was, but it is marked. 2216. What do you think A1 was? As expected, the original block must have been a fluke. Your arrows fly true and sink into stolen armor and goblin flesh. Splig cries out in pain and flails in a blind panic. He turns to flee and finds himself back against the foreman's office. The large goblin then attempts to leap through the very small window of the shack, managing only to get himself stuck and destroying the measly support the wall gave the structure. Within moments, the entire shack collapses on top of him. Read 7943. Wow, he went running. That was easier than I thought. A moment later, Splig appears from out of the wreckage, bloodied, bruised, and all bloodlust gone from his half-unfocused eyes. He staggers forward and plops the winged helmet back on his head. Smaller goblins gather around him, jabbering to one another. Splig kicks a bit of rubble aside and reaches down to lift his massive club. He hefts it and points it in your direction, his beady eyes shadowed by his oversized helmet. Then, without a word, he breaks into a dead sprint toward the bridge over the water channel and soon vanishes up the tunnel heading toward the mine's entrance. A panic follows, with countless goblins abandoning their weapons and their reason to scramble over one another and follow their cowardly leader. Within a few moments, you are alone in the empty mine. Only the echoes of screaming goblins in the tunnels above and discarded makeshift spears and clubs littering the ground as evidence that these halls were home to a goblin horde. That's it. We got rid of the goblin horde. We just scared them off. You pick through the leavings, not expecting much. However, under a plank from the foreman's office, you find a shard of iridescent crystal engraved with an ancient symbol. You gain the war rune. There was a place we could use. There were two places we could use the war rune. Item L. Wow, that's exciting. And we didn't have to blow anything up. Very interesting. All right, let's look at what L is. Sorry about that. War rune. This rune-bound shard would passively... Sorry, I need my glasses. Would passively enhance your martial prowess if crafted into a weapon or armor. On its own, however, it is no more than a small stone. Okay, well, if you'll remember, when we went to the smithy, they were like, we can build this, if you have the war rune, I can build a sword for you, although we don't have enough money to buy a good sword. But it sounds like it could also be used to create a shield. All right, that's fantastic. We got L. And it says now read entry 9995. It's a long walk back to the beginning of the mine, but you take comfort in the fact that you don't have to be wary of any goblin ambushes. You opt to avoid the hidden passage you entered by and instead head to the main entrance, walking past an abandoned guard post and several makeshift wooden barriers. You lift the wooden beam that bars your path, drop it to one side, and throw open the doors. Then walk back to Dragonholt. The walk back to Dragonholt will be short, and then you can deliver the good news to Fiore. Your quest is complete. Read entry 4832 in the book. 4832. village. So, like, that quest could not have gone better. We barely took any damage, and we fixed the mine water, and we were very... Our decision to not try to use that dynamite, I think, is what made this work out so well. Like, we humiliated him, we chose options to humiliate him, and he just ran off. Although, we didn't kill him. And you could imagine that we might meet this guy again. Although he seems a bit cowardly. Alright, 4832. So let's make a note of that on our thing here. 4832. Village after Goblin Mine. Wow, that could not have gone better. That makes up a little bit for the Philip fiasco. PF. Philip fiasco. 4832. All right, let's read that together. That was that Goblin Mine just felt like it could not have gone better. I feel very good about that one. All right, let's go back to the village and read this, and then we'll probably end our day. Let's see how happy they are if we get some fame from that. You find your step light as you descend from the hills and past the mill on your way back into Dragonholt. Fiore's harried apprentice, Brill, meets you on the road and leads you straight back to his mistress. "You're back," says Fiore, setting aside a sheaf of yellowing papers. "Tell me everything." You summarize your adventure in the mine, being sure to highlight the involvement of Splig, and end by declaring the claim free of goblins and ready to resume operations. "Splig, eh?" asks Fiore. "Is that a name I should know?" She shakes her head, fingering the silver chain around her neck. "Well, good work. I had a feeling I could count on you." She gestures to her apprentice, who places an iron strongbox on the table beside her. She unlocks it and removes a heavy felt bag that clinks and clanks as she presses it into your hands. "We had a bargain, and I'm a woman of my word." She snatches up her crutch and stands. "Brill, Bozarth," she calls. Then she turns to you. "I'd very much like to sit around and toast to your victory, but apparently I have a lot of work to do getting that mine up and running again." She grins and stomp drags away. You gain 150 gold. That is a lot of gold. We'll take it since we only had 10. So now we have 160. Mark 2 progress in heroism. Okay. 2 progress in heroism. Let's put this here. 2 progress in heroism. Only 2 away. 1 progress in combat training, which again is our second overflow. So this goes back to not rescuing Philip. Like, instead of rescuing Philip, we went and trained in combat. Totally worthless. 1 progress in physical training. That whole fiasco on day 3 with Philip, where we trained in stuff we didn't need to train for, just a disaster. All right, we mark story U2. 2 time passes. Okay, so now we're in the evening of day 4, and the encounter is complete. So we're still on day 4 of the village. We didn't get any fame for that. I don't get it. And no experience. I don't get it. If we had rescued Philip, we would have gotten some fame. Instead, we lost 3 fame. And no experience. I don't understand why I don't get experience. Maybe if we had killed the goblin, we would have gotten experience. Well, we did get the war rune, and we did get some money, and we didn't destroy the mine, which I feel good about. Maybe we'll go have that sword made now. Either sword or shield. All right, it's in the evening of day 4. We're back in Dragonholt Village, and that's a good place to stop. I'll see you on the next episode when we see what mischief we can get into.